Welcome to this video, What's Up with Water Tariffs? Now, first things first, or is it second? It can't be overstated that we must first measure and understand demand, and then design tariffs to influence the demand based on the supply constraints. Just like the picture. Cart before the horse? I don't think so. And we need to use the right tool for the job. The application of a change in tariff has really only three possible outcomes. No effect, negative outcomes, or positive outcomes. So it's essential to try to understand the consequences before we implement a change in tariff. Changes in tariff can have a wide-ranging effect on consumers and the economy. Just ask Daffy.
You're gonna hurt somebody that way! Probably me.
Tariffs are the tools we use to influence consumption. There's fixed tariffs and block or step tariffs. We're going to look at both of them. We should note that water meters measure volume in kiloliters and not flow, which is kiloliters per day. We would regard that as demand. So we must always be mindful of the influence of the meter measurement period when trying to apply tariffs which limit demand. A flat tariff consists of a single tariff rate, that's one parameter, which doesn't vary with demand, consumption or time. As there's no tariff period and the rate doesn't vary, clearly it's not possible to influence demand in a meaningful way. Block or step tariffs, on the other hand, consist of different tariff rates applied at different water consumption levels over a given fixed tariff period, typically monthly. There are therefore two parameters, the horizontal x-axis showing consumption threshold and the vertical y-axis showing the tariff rate. So here's a question, why is the tariff linked to volume and not flow? Remember, water meters measure consumption. That's why. Monthly block tariffs are therefore useful for reducing water demand during periods of high consumption. That's because the demand period, let's say the dry season, and the tariff period, monthly, are relatively well aligned. But there is a bit of a problem when you use block tariffs with prepayment meters. So why don't block tariffs work well when applied at the time of purchase, which is what happens with prepayment token meters? So do block tariffs work in an acceptable manner when applied at the time of purchase? The simple answer is no, and there's three reasons why. The first problem is that the tariff must be applied at the time of purchase, when consumption still lies in the future. Therefore, the rate at which the commodity is sold is not related to the rate at which it will eventually be consumed. Problem number two is that subsequent purchases in the month get progressively more expensive for the same units purchased. To appropriately dampen demand by consumers, they need to be encouraged to use less across the entire month. Finally, problem three is where infrequent purchases, where somebody perhaps purchases once every 2 or 3 months, result in more units being unfairly purchased at the highest rate. Looking closer then at problem one, a token vending system applies a block tariff and converts the payment into prepaid units, kiloliters, at the time of purchase. Consequently, the block tariff rating calculation must be based on units purchased in the block tariff period because the future consumption is not yet known. This is a problem because the rate at which units are purchased has no relation to the rate at which the commodity will be consumed. Looking closer at problem 2, subsequent purchases in the month get progressively more expensive for the same units purchased. This is best illustrated through an example. Let's see what happens when a consumer purchases and then consumes the same amount of units each week, in this case let's say 2 kiloliters, during a given month using the tariff shown. The cost of the units purchased increases each subsequent week, 50 in week 1, 100 in week 2, and 200 in week 3. The nature of consumers is not to save for later, and so the potential reduction in demand across the month will be asymmetrical. In problem 3, we can see that infrequent purchases are punitive. Using the same tariff but purchasing 6 kiloliters at 3 monthly intervals should cost the consumer 50 per month at 25 per kiloliter. 50 plus 50 is 150 for the 3-month period. But instead, all 6 kiloliters are charged at the time of purchase, so that would be 2 kiloliters at 25, 2 kiloliters at 50, and 2 kiloliters at 100, resulting in a much higher cost to the consumer. 350 versus 150. So how do we go about solving these problems? Well, we need to get smart. The solution to problems 1 and 3 are in using smart prepayment. If water meters are online, even for just some of the time, they can send consumption readings to a central server. The consumer has a prepayment wallet at the server into which top-up payments can be made. The tariff is applied to the readings received, that's at the time of consumption, and no longer at the time of purchase. Optionally, the water supply can be disconnected or even throttled for excessive consumption and/or non-payment via the online meter and valve. The answer to problem 2 lies in using a daily allocation method with the block tariff. To encourage a uniform daily reduction in demand across a month or season, use a daily allocation method for the block tariff. Using this method, the month or season block tariff block levels are distributed proportionally across each day in the given period. If a consumer consumes a high amount in a given day, the daily block allocation at the lower rates will be exceeded and the higher rates will be applied for that day. In effect, the block tariff comes into effect each day using the allocated daily block levels. So in summary, the secret to smart water is enable online communication for water meters, even if it's partly online. Use smart prepayment with an online wallet as opposed to vending prepaid water tokens. Apply a monthly block tariff to consumption using meter readings rather than applying a block tariff at the time of token purchase, and then use a daily allocation method across the month or season to encourage consistent consumption across the period. Smart water. Thanks for watching.